All right. Hello. Welcome to episode 287 of Together BHA. Adam in the house and Craig back after what has been a very busy spring for you so far. How are we both doing?
I don't want to be in the house. I don't want to be in the house. I want to be out of the house. I want to be gone somewhere else. That's what I want. I don't want to talk about this. Strap yourselves in, listeners, because this is going to be the misery speedrun podcast is how we're gonna coin this, because yesterday was a weekend ruiner, in my opinion. Craig, how are you?
Yeah, feeling the same way after yesterday. So yeah, I've been away packing loads of crap to move halfway across the country. So that's want a bit of reprieve, have a nice little Brighton win at the weekend, and we can't even do that. So yeah, that's good. But Josh, how are you?
Yeah, about the same. We talked last weekend, didn't we, Adam, about, I categorized this as a must win if we wanted to continue to vie for that 8th spot that is massively congested in the league right now. And obviously we failed to do so. We have taken 4 points so far this season. Well, that's it. That is it. Like, there's no other possible points we can take. We've taken 4 points from the bottom 4 at home. A draw against every single one of them. We were lucky to do that against Southampton. We were incredibly lucky to do that today. Ipswich looked more likely to win in their game as well when they started hitting us on the break late. And Wolves was one of the funniest and most depressing comebacks we've seen in a long time that I think resolved in about half a dozen Brighton fans sending death threats to Matt Sweefer. So overall, what a superb 4 games against the bottom 4, fellas. Obviously, we are going to talk a lot about injuries. I personally don't, and suspensions, right? But I don't think that really justifies 4 points from 4 games against this level of team at home. But looking at the lineup yesterday, pretty much not too dissimilar to what we've been seeing lately, except, of course, Carlos Baleba was the man that filtered into central defense, something that he was not expecting per his social media until the day off. He said himself that he was not expecting to be playing in the center of defense yesterday. Dunk moving to right centre back. Matt O'Reilly gets another start. Pedro Welbeck up top together as well. Adingra on the left. Mitoma has a heel injury from the Palace game. Sounds like it's more bruising and pain related than anything else, which is a big relief, I'm sure, to everybody listening. But what did you make of that starting 11? And I'll just say it, first of all, it should be a starting 11 that beats Leicester City at home, right? Like, that's first and foremost. Let's not try and give excuses here. That's an 11 that beats Leicester City at home.
Do you say Dunk was playing? I didn't see him. So that's...
Well, if you watched the 2 goals Leicester scored, you'd have seen him contribute to both.
Oh, was that? I thought it was one of those training dummies that they have that you try and fire the free kicks around. I just don't even know what to say about this. Like, it doesn't matter who you play, as you've said. Carlos Baleba, you put him in any position, I think he'll do just fine. The problem wasn't the lineup. It wasn't the tactics. I know it's easy to blame Hertzler here, and that was my initial reaction, because just as you described, not being able to get proper results against these bottom sides has to ultimately fall on the manager. But this was a finishing problem. Yesterday for this game. I mean, we ended up with an XG of, someone get me correct on this, wasn't it 4 point something? I think is what I saw. Some places are giving it 4.04. Some are giving it 3.91. Like, what are we doing? 21 shots. Defensively, I'm not going to blame Carlos Baleba, but I think we've all seen maybe enough of the Dunk comeback trail. Hinshelwood on the right has still got a ton of question marks for me. If you just go back to the Leicester stats, and Craig, I'll let you tag in here in a second, like, just to highlight how pathetic this was. And I think we know the stats have been thrown out there that Leicester hadn't scored a goal since January 26th against Spurs. So if you remove the Spurs game, because if there's one side that has been capable of producing more pathetic results against bad teams than us, it's Spurs, right? Complete disarray. That's the only result that Leicester have got in months. So if you go backwards from yesterday, they lost. Spurs lost. Drew. Who did they draw against? Us. 2-2. December 8th. We are the bookend to Leicester's points. Like, that is just it's sort of catastrophically bad. Like, I just don't even understand how you think about that in any other way. They are an abhorrent side. They are pathetic. They've basically not been able to score. They've been leaking goals, and we made Mavididi look like bloody Maradona. I've got no. It's Craig. Maybe you've got some more insight than mine.
No, we just wind the pod up there. That's it. It's 6 minutes, so we're done. So, no, I agree with both of you that it's not the lineup, right? Like, the lineup is the best you could have put out, and that's the lineup that should be beating any relegation side, especially at home. So, I had no problems with the lineup at all. I thought, that is sufficient, right? And we'll talk about injuries later as well, and stuff like that, and why the side was the side that it is. But ultimately, that should still be more than enough to get you through and get 3 points. So the disappointment lies within the actual play and the finishing itself, not the people that were on the lineup, shall we say?
First, I figured we would just talk about the first half, obviously, because that was really the stats that you're laying out there, Adam. Like, a vast amount of that XG came in the first half. A vast amount of that good performance came in the first half. And where we can turn and look at the coaching is in that second half and the reactions that were made to changes that happened. But I mean, that first half, right? Like, I thought everything started out pretty good. Like, we dominated just about everything you'd expect to dominate. And while we were not finishing chances, it very much felt like a case of like, when, not if. And obviously Connie Cody stepped up with one of the funniest, like, just most audacious handballs I've ever seen. Just, there was no attempt to pretend to even not handball it. He just stuck his arm out and blocked the ball from possibly going in the net. Fair play to him. And Pedro slots it in for 1-0. And for me at that point, I'm just like, all right, like, get another, and like, all's well. Like, we're good to go here. And within 7 minutes, as you say, Mavididi equalized. And at that point, it almost felt like the entire stadium thought, here we go again, right? Like, you could hear it, like, just the air go out of the stadium. But even then, like, we immediately came back and looked really good. Like, we were all over him in that first half. Like, we could have been 5-1 up, like, really without exaggeration, I think. I mean, you say that the lineup was great, no notes, but like, we talked about this for 2.5 years under Graham Potter. He put out a lineup, the players didn't finish well, it was their fault. Like, how long do we blame the players and not look at constant, like, the one constant that goes on, right? It doesn't matter what lineup goes out there. If they're not finishing chances all the time, there's got to be someone else at the head that gets blamed for it sooner or later. No, like, it feels like we are drifting very slowly back into peak Graham Potter management levels, including the total lack of enthusiasm for pre and post match interviews as well.
I mean, there's another piece that we should talk about, is that you signed a centre back in January for situations that arise like these emergency backups, and you play your midfielder instead of him. That's not great, is it? And it's becoming clearer that obviously he was thrown in the deep end. He failed when he came on against I can't remember the game at this point. Who did come on against? And Cashin looked bad.
It was Villa, isn't it?
Villa, there you go. And so his manager's lost confidence, but now, so what do you have there? What is he? Is that the manager saying he needs more time? Is that the manager saying he's not up to, he's just not going to make it? Is this a guy that's just going to turn around and just go back out on loan in the summer? Or is this a guy that is your Adam Webster backup? Because I think when we asked for a centre back, we were asking for a centre back that would come in and partner Van Hecke for the long term. This is not cash in. I think that has become abundantly clear quite quickly. So we still got a gap there. When it comes to the finishing, we look really impotent without Matoma. And when you also add no Ruta into that equation, we look quite clueless when it comes to actually finishing. Adingra put in a decent chunk of good balls. His finishing has never been particularly amazing, in my opinion. I know he's scored some decent goals, but it's not the strongest part of his game. Minte's shot is fairly tragic quite often. Well, Welbeck didn't get much of the ball in my opinion. We spread the ball out to the wings quite a lot, so you saw a lot of Minte and Adingra, and I felt Welbeck was kind of marked fairly well. João Pedro was dropping quite deep, so it ended up not going to the right players to finish, in my opinion. If that is an oversimplification of the situation,
there was a lot of crosses from Adingra and Minte that just went to each other. Right, you kind of just bypass the middle a little bit. Like I thought Adingra had a really good first half, but like you said, he can't. His finishing is not his strong suit. Right, he's a creator. He's not a finisher, which is fine. You're allowed to be that as a winger. But it just I saw a lot of the crosses and a lot of the passes just completely bypass that middle area. And when it did come to that middle area, unfortunately, it comes to a Matt O'Reilly who just isn't able to do anything at the moment, and just not be able to pull things off. I know he had a couple of chances in that first half. There was a gilt-edged chance with a diving header that should have been put away. So I think I agree with you, Adam, is that you're no Matoma, no Ruta, no chaos. Because I think that's what Ruta really brings, is just a level of uncertainty, because even he doesn't know what he's doing. So like you miss that, and it all becomes a little bit predictable. So, yeah, I think a lot of the crosses, whilst they were good, they were just going to the other side. And then it was sort of a to and fro with Minte and Adingra. And it didn't really allow Welbeck into the game at all. But we missed a lot of chances. This isn't on one particular player. I think everyone missed a decent chance yesterday in the first half because, like Josh said, we should have been 4-5-0 up in that first half. But you see a couple of good chances go. João Pedro missed a good chance. Matt O'Reilly missed a good chance. Adingra missed a couple. Minte missed a sitter.
O'Reilly, the post.
So it then becomes, well, it's not a player thing, it's a mentality thing, or it's a confidence thing, right? We're on a game of 4 games without a win now. You go to Leicester City and you concede straight after, scoring a penalty. Is it a mentality thing? Is it just confidence? It just looks like we're struggling.
Yeah. Second half starts pretty much the way the first half finished. We were kind of just all over them again. We absolutely battered them. Five more shots. Nothing from them. Again, dominated the ball. They were fully on the back foot, and we won a second penalty. I guess the question has to be for both of you. Any concerns around either penalty? Like, obviously, bias is in there for all of us, but it looked pretty cut and dry for both penalties, right? Like, we happy with that?
Yeah, both penalties. I thought it was actually a decent refereeing performance and a good use of VAR, where it was actually brought in for the right purpose, and they corrected decisions that weren't made on the pitch. Yeah, no complaints. And João Pedro, if we'll take a positive out of this, he's an absolute superb penalty taker. There's never any concern when he steps up, and that was obviously something we missed for a very, very long time.
15 in our last 16 penalties scored for João Pedro, and the one he missed, he scored the rebound. So it's kind of like asterisk there to say he's got a perfect record, right, for the Albion. And obviously, it did make me giggle a little bit where Hermansen went to immediately continue to do the shithousery and putting him off and remembered he was on a booking and stepped back onto his line. Like, it was just like in his head to just go and do what he normally does when there's a pen, and like, oh no, we did this already. I got booked. Let's just move back and allow this to happen. Absolutely cracked me up. But fair play to him. He has impressed me from a Leicester perspective this season. Hermansen is a very good goalkeeper, and he will probably not be anywhere near that team come the summer. I suspect he will be being signed by a Premier League side.
You get that situation with keepers, don't you, Josh? I feel like at the bottom of the Prem, where they get a lot of chance to impress because they're just being peppered with shots. It reminds me of Nick Pope years ago when it was Burnley, right? It was like, wow, that's a good keeper. Yeah, because he's taking on 1,000 shots every game. So yeah,
no, you're not wrong though. He has been hammered with them this year. 2-1 up, and you think, okay, the first goal was a blip. We're not going to make this mistake again. We're 2-1 up. We're all over him again. Like, they are literally not out of their half. And the key moment is 61 minutes. Vardy, Thomason, and Ndidi comes off. Daka, Pereira, and Skip come on. The Leicester side are energized, and they really begin pushing forward. And by about 70, maybe even sooner, to like 65 minutes. So five or so minutes after the substitutions were made, and 5 minutes before we made any subs ourselves, we were essentially defending with 11 men behind the ball at home to Leicester City with 25 minutes to go. They were in the ascendancy. I don't think they've been in the ascendancy since December 10th. They looked very good, very crisp. They dominated the ball. They outpassed us. They outshot us. They played a lot better than us. And it was rewarded with a goal from a set piece. The set piece situation surely is a problem, right? But just after that goal, the penalty, 3 shots for Leicester, 63% possession for Leicester after that goal, before their equalizer. We talk about mentality, right? Like that is shocking. Like what is going on there in the team mentality to not trust themselves to be able to continue doing what they were doing? Do we consider Patson Daka, Ricardo Pereira, and Oliver Skip such vital game changers that we are accepting of that kind of capitulation? I don't know. But set pieces are a serious issue. Since De Zerbi took over, we are the worst team in the Premier League from offensive set pieces and 3rd worst from defensive set pieces over the course of the 3 put together, right? Like, how do we fix that? Open question.
I mean, I thought we were making some strides when it came to set pieces. You've got to remember, for quite a long time, Lewis Dunk was our free kick taker. And do you remember every time he used to step up and we were just like, why are we doing this? Please don't do this again. Every time. And then we were like, oh, hold on. Danny Welbeck can really actually take a good free kick. Pervis Estupinian can take a good free kick. We started to do some more stuff from corners. We saw positives out of corner takers. I feel like we've had a few different corner takers where they've looked a little bit better doing that. So I feel like offensively we've been getting there. Defensively, we're shocking. We're still tragic. That bit I don't know. We were just baited by the offside here. We tried to play him offside. João Pedro, I think, was the furthest guy back. Maybe Pervis as well, playing them on. Meanwhile, all our centre backs pushed up. I think the only thing you could potentially start to blame here is the inconsistency of some of the back line that keeps switching in and out. Like, how do you have consistent shifts with positioning for set pieces and offside traps when you're just constantly chopping and changing who's involved in that? But at the same time, this is a Premier League team. You should be able to deal with those types of situations. I want to double down on what you said, though, about what happened after they made the subs, because they didn't really change much tactically, Leicester. These were just some player swaps. And they're shit players. Let's be honest. Patson Daka's done nothing for them. Oliver Skip is... There's no point even talking about it. Like,
Daka wasn't standing out in the Championship either, by the way. Like,
no.
If anybody paid attention, like, he was not like a 35 goal Mitrovic guy that's like, oh shit, like he's fired them back up, right? Like,
no, it was it's kind of ironic to see a Daka rally in the second half. But like, if you go and look at the first, that was bad. If you go and look at the first 60 minutes of the game, right, we had 19 shots to their 6 and 66% possession. As soon as you get to when those subs came on, they had 9 shots to our 2, and as you said, about 54% possession. What the hell is that? You're at home to Leicester. You're at home to Leicester. And the bigger worry for me here is this is almost like a way of looking at our season as a whole, because it just reminds me of like last season in general, where you got to this point in the year and you just collapsed and ultimately spelled the end for De Zerbi's tenure, amongst other things. Is this now going to be a microscopic version of what's going to happen at the higher level? Are we now just going to be bad for the rest of the game because the team has sort of given up? Like, you've got João Pedro and Ayari sat at like swimming pools middle of the week having a little rest up, and they come out and they look like they're still at the swimming pool in the game.
It's not a holiday though.
It's not a holiday. No.
That was one of the strangest semantic arguments I've ever seen in my life. For those of you that didn't see it, someone on Twitter posted pictures of Pedro chilling by the pool and said that they went on holiday. They like had a big relaxation after the worst game, like worst result of the season. For a lot of people, losing to Palace twice is right. Like, I know the 7-0, but for a lot of people, that really is awful. And they got a holiday right after. And to put in a performance like that, quite a few people felt pretty frustrated and stated that they shouldn't be going anywhere bloody where on holiday if that's the case. And Naylor vehemently came out and denied they were a holiday. It was a break, and you need to. It's very different. It
was a mental health reset, I think it was also called. So
try that at work next time.
Yeah.
Next time you want to go on a holiday to swimming pool in a warm country, say
after losing $1 million client.
Yeah. It's not a holiday. I just need a little mental health break here, guys. They'll give you a break. They'll give you a long break.
But back to it, I think it's just it is inexcusable that you can allow a relegation side to just dictate play for half an hour, like at home, right? I don't think that's anywhere near where we should be. Like, you should be going for the jugular in those aspects and in those situations. You're 2-1 up. You've got 25 minutes to go. Again, they're not bringing on world beaters, as we've just mentioned, right? They're good players, but they're nothing you should really be too worried about. But I just don't understand. I don't get it. And that's why I said earlier, just around mentality, confidence, whatever, because there's no reason for that to happen. It's not a skill issue, right? Like, you can go and dictate this game, and you can go and take those last 25, and you can see this game out. That's just game management. You should be able to do that if you're chasing Europe, but we can't. So I think that's probably where my main frustration is coming from, is scoring and then just sitting back. And we've seen it before with under prior managers and bits and pieces. Like, it's not good enough when you're playing that level of team to allow them to have the ball and to dictate play and to do things that they haven't been able to do for 4 months. And we got exactly what we deserved as a result. I think there was really poor defending for the corner. That's really poor. That's about as poor as we've seen all season.
The free kick.
The free kick. And then after that, we just sat back again, and they just allowed them to dictate even more and go for a winner. Those last 10 minutes were so bad that I think that's why people are pissed off today and after that game, is that even when you go to 2-2 and you allow them back into the game, we then weren't on top anyway. We made a couple of changes. We had a couple of half chances, but we weren't even going for it. And that's where my frustration lies.
Yeah, Leicester 6 shots, 2 on target. Us 2 shots, 1 on target. Leicester had 3 corners to nothing for us. They doubled our tackle success rate. We had a little bit more of the ball, but I mean, we've talked about that this season. The evolution of having the ball means jack shit these days. And I think you're right. Like, we got exactly what we deserve. Honestly, we probably deserved to lose on the face of that last half an hour. It was really that bad.
We did. We did. I mean, let's. Do you want to make it even? Want to feel even worse?
In for a penny, in for a pound.
Yeah,
Let's
let's double down. Our goal. I'm stating the obvious. Our goals were 2 penalties, and the first penalty, there was a defender on the line. It was not going in. Okay, so even if he didn't handball it, it was not going in. The second one, I bet my entire mortgage on Matt O'Reilly not scoring that goal. Okay, so we really probably didn't even deserve 2 goals. Okay. So we couldn't break down this Leicester team. And I do not want to hear Brighton, we can't break down the low block and the 10 men behind the ball. They weren't doing that. They weren't doing that. They were trying, and they certainly did for the last half an hour. They weren't defending, guys. This was Brighton going toe to toe with relegation fodder, and we were outplayed for the last 30 minutes of the game, and we couldn't score against them for the first 60 when we had all the momentum. And are you guys seeing all the a lot of the conversations online? We've got the standard people shouldn't be, and by the way, I wouldn't boo, but people shouldn't be booing. This is just
that was my next question of what you thought of the boo boys that came out towards the end. There wasn't a huge chorus of them, but it was very much a vocal. You could hear it. Very much so. It probably was quieter due to the fact that half the stadium was empty by about 94 minutes because everybody was just sick of seeing what they were seeing. Yeah, I mean, what were your thoughts? Would you? I mean, honestly, I probably wouldn't have booed because I probably would have been one of those people that went out the door on 95 minutes when Leicester got a free kick in our area and I was done because I'd have wanted to go home. So for me, I probably would have just bailed at 95 minutes and just been like, nah, I'm getting a 2-minute head start on the insane loyalists that want to watch possibly a 3-2 loss. So I wouldn't have booed, but I can understand why some are, because we've seen this all before. And I mean, what this team has presided over in this season, despite it being, some people are saying it's an actual great success season, right? People are saying that no matter what ends this season with the last 6 games, there's been a lot of social media speak that actually this season has been an unmitigated success regardless. We brought in the youngest ever coach. We've had the worst injuries in the league, and we have been in and amongst the chase for Europe until the latter stages of the Premier League. That's the argument that I've seen a lot.
This is some Trump Harris PR right
here. I'm not saying I agree with it. I'm just saying that has been very much the positive side. But 4 points at home to the bottom 4. We've lost to Palace twice for the first time in a century. We've lost 2 goal leads against those bottom 4 teams. We've lost 7-0. We're the worst set piece takers in the league. We're one of the worst set piece takers defensively in the league. And we have 2 players that we also really need to talk about. Would you rather start with Dunk or Bart Verbruggen? Dealer's choice. Which one do you want? Fucking
Sophie's choice, mate. Yeah. Didn't someone ask about Verbruggen last podcast, or are we worried about him? We're like, no. And it's maybe the answer is different this time. I guess we could start with Verbruggen.
Andre Onana got dropped this weekend. He's dropped after his hilarious performance against Lyon in Europe. Here's some food for thought. Since the start of last season, no goalkeeper has made more errors leading to goals for Premier League clubs in all competitions than Manchester United's Andre Onana and Brighton's Bart Verbruggen. There is no other Premier League goalkeeper more error-stricken than Bart Verbruggen in this league, other than Onana, and everybody considers him a massive waste of space, a meme, and a joke of a goalkeeper. So I guess the question has to be asked that we have a goalkeeper that is on par with Andre Onana. He is 7 years his junior, which I think should be taken into account quite heavily, because one of them is 29 years old and supposedly at their peak, and the other one is 22 and very much not. What are your thoughts around Bart Verbruggen going into the summer and next season? Do you have faith in him being our number one next year, given the stats that have been presented to you, and knowing how bad of a penalty kick taker he is, saver he is, and the concerns we have on his confidence from set pieces? Pierre in the chat saying that he thinks Bart was at fault for the second goal because he couldn't decide where he wanted to sit positionally. Unfortunately, questions have to be asked. What are your thoughts?
I think you're right that the questions have to be asked. I think for me, it doesn't change that I would want him as my number one still. I think there's a lot of different factors when it comes into it. I think if you're using a very loose connection to Andre Onana, you're talking about a keeper that was in the Champions League final 2 seasons ago. That is a very different goalkeeper than what we're seeing. This is someone who is 22, who is really coming into a lot of responsibility right now with the Netherlands number one shirt, with us as well. His first full season with us as a number one. I think he deserves a little bit more slack than that, and I would like him to be number one for the rest of the season and for next season. So I'm sticking with it. I do agree that the jury should be out. If you are making consistent mistakes and they are predominantly your mistakes, then yeah, we should be asking questions. But I think there's more upsides than downsides to it.
Yeah, you keep playing for Bruggen. It's a very different situation to having that level of form, and you're 33 years old, and which brings us on to Lewis Dunk, because every time he's played now at this point in recent memory, I feel like it's been not good, and he was at fault for the first goal. He did, in my opinion, you're captain, you're a centre back. He didn't marshal his lines correctly for the free kick for the second goal. And I know there were also other areas of defensive frailty. I still believe he has one of the best long ball pass selections in the team, and he offers a lot in that regard when it comes to some of the build up. But he's become a liability. I also think, to give Verbruggen some credit here, it doesn't help if you don't have the confidence required in your back line to do your job as efficiently, because Verbruggen would have never been put in that position for the first goal or the second goal if things were done correctly in front of him. If Dunk hadn't have messed up, the ball wouldn't have been there, and Verbruggen had to splash out and do some kind of weird save that went through his hand. You also got to remember that there was a really good chance for a Leicester player at some point in the second half, and Verbruggen made a really good save with his foot as well. So there was we see enough good from Verbruggen to be like, okay, give him time. We'll take the bad for now, and hopefully we'll get more good in the future. With Dunk, you start to say, well, how much good is there in the future now? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to pile on here, unfortunately, because it is a depressing read. But like, the numbers don't lie. And he is the constant behind the numbers. And then even in the subjective stuff too, right? So when we had him drop out through injury against Chelsea, we went on an unbeaten run. We've been winless since he's came back into the squad. Literally the same day. We have not won a single game since Lewis Dunk returned. We did not lose one prior to that. And then just across the entire season, when Dunk has played in the side, we're averaging 1.29 points per game. When Dunk is not playing in the side, we're averaging 2.2 points per game. That's a fact. It's a categorical fact. Yesterday, subjectively, a lot of people across social media felt that we simply did not have enough leaders on the pitch. That's something we hear quite often with this team being the second youngest in the Premier League, right? And that is also a fact. We are the second youngest team in the division. And some naivety from some of these players is bound to happen. But I do not accept that we do not have enough vocal leaders on the pitch when we have a 33-year-old captain that is going to be, what do you call the word, like testimonial, like, 10 years, like however, like, I mean, he's been here a lot longer than 10 years, but like he's going to be eligible for like just about every like loyalty scheme under the sun, right? As a player who's been a one-man club player. You're telling me that he doesn't have the leadership skills to marshal a back line of Jack Hinshelwood, Carlos Baleba, and Purvis Estepinian, an Ecuadorian international, and Carlos Baleba edging towards world class in the next year or two, and Jack Hinshelwood, who's played at right back plenty of times this season. You're telling me our team captain could not marshal that defense? Because he came out the worst rated player on Who Scored, including Leicester players. He came out the worst rated player on SofaScore, including Leicester players.
All right, I want to clap back a little bit in his because the Forest game wasn't on him, right? Because he came on for an injured Webster. He wasn't playing. Came on for an injured Webster. Didn't do anything wrong and scored a cracking penalty. All right. Against Villa, he was on the pitch for 72 minutes. We'd conceded one goal from Marcus Rashford with a counter-attack. And as soon as he went off, obviously Cashin came on. The rest is history. We conceded an additional 2 goals. That game is not on him. The Palace game, his centre-back partner was sent off. I know it was late in the day, but the problem there wasn't really defensively. It was, again, we couldn't break them down. We couldn't score, even though they had like 9 men on the pitch. And yesterday, yeah, you can blame them. If we'd have done the job at the other end of the pitch, this wouldn't be as much of an issue. The problem was the finishing against Leicester. We should have been 4-5 goals to the good in the first half, and that is not an exaggeration. And then suddenly no one's going, oh, Lewis Dunk, I don't know about this. The problem wasn't Lewis Dunk, in my opinion. Is he a problem? Yes. Is he the problem? No. That is my opinion on the matter. Do I want to see him start games going forward, especially next year? No, not really. I think he's been a fantastic servant for the club, if we use that overused phrase, as you talked about. Did they even do testimony? I think testimony used to be just so the players could get like one final paycheck before they were paid like hundreds of thousands of pounds a week. Don't know if they do them anymore. At least maybe they do them just for the grandeur of it. But we need someone to partner Van Hecker long term. It's not Lewis Dunk. But I'm not going to blame him for all of the ills of this team right now. It's way deeper than Lewis Dunk.
It is, and we've seen centre backs, especially when they're sort of pushed in and out of the team without a decent run of games and that consistency. We've said that about Webster before, and it might be pertinent towards the conversation with Dunk as well. Is that you need a decent run of games in order to get your feet under you and be able to perform at the level that he needs to. I agree with Adam. I think it's a symptom. I don't think it's the symptom. I think there's larger things at play here. We can't even finish our dinner is probably the main one from yesterday, right? So it's more around, okay, my only thought, and this is my thought only, is that with Dunk, he tends to lead by example, right? And I think you have some of these, I guess, again, you got Stephen in the chat as well saying that we lack leadership on the field. It depends on what you determine what leadership is. Right, you've got your Lallana in COVID area barking orders, right? Like that's a form of a leader. You've got Lewis Dunk who leads by example, right? He's not shouting at players. He's not going mental. You didn't hear him on those COVID games where it was a little bit weird. But I always feel like Lewis Dunk is led by example, right? By being one of the best players on the pitch and saying, right, this is how you do it. Like this is the training. This is what we do. This is how we perform in games. And if he's a little bit rusty and he's not doing that, then that's also an issue, right? If he cannot lead by example and he's not barking orders, then maybe you do lack some form of leadership on that pitch. But you have other players there. You've got João Pedro, who's a natural leader, right? You've got people that have been there and done that. You've got Danny Welbeck, who's been stellar for most of his career and is also just a natural born leader too. So I don't agree that we lack leadership on the field. I just feel like we can't finish. And when you can't win games and when you don't perform to that level and you don't win games, you start analyzing in areas where maybe the problem isn't there.
All fair. We talk a lot about sticking together and mentality from Fabian Herzler. That is the two phrases that are used a lot over the course of the season. Sticking together and mentality. I would say some of the defeats we've had this season that have kind of permeated this season have shown a weak mentality. How does Fabian Herzler improve that when he has not improved it for the first 7 months of his career in the Premier League? And I don't mean that in it's just a fact, right? Like, we're showing mental issues now just the same as we did at the beginning. So it's not like he's dog shit, get rid of him, right? But it's just a question. Like, what do you think Fabian Herzler has to do this summer to improve the mentality of this squad? Because we are gaining a bit of a reputation as Spursy bottle jobs in this division. There aren't many fans of other teams that would expect us to be winning a cup final anytime soon, right? Like, if we got into it, we're probably the ones that would mess it up. If there's a win or lose game at the end of the season against Spurs to take European football, there aren't many Albion fans that expect us to win that because that is who we are in this team. We have been that way for quite a while in the Premier League, pretty much since the exit of Houghton and the team that got promoted, right? Like, as that group left and the new group came in, we have developed this mentality. How does it get fixed? Or is it a symptom of the way the club is run, and this is never going to get fixed because Tony Bloom's model relies on young, exciting players, and having that throughout the squad is simply going to always lead to slight mentality weakness and lack of consistency and naivety?
Yeah, that's the word, right? We're a naive team. And you need to have the right level of balance in the group. And we are lacking the balance right now because of the injuries. If you think about some of the players that have that wiliness to them and have a level of experience, internationally, Ferdi Kadioglu's shown he can do that. He's not crazy young. That's a guy you're missing. Joel Veltman, for me, is the one that embodies all of it. The guy that's capable of knowing exactly how you play to get around certain situations and doing the slightly naughtier stuff. You miss him badly. Obviously, the vortex left by Pascal Gross is significant. We talked about this last week. I would throw people like Ruter into that conversation, despite him being young. He's got some wherewithal about him, and you feel confident when he's around and he's in the game. Whereas you look at players like your Hinchellwoods and your Mintays and so on and so forth, and those are the players you look at and you go, I don't know, maybe these guys don't have it in them right now to have the level of confidence required to play in those big games. Because I agree with you. I think even if we got to a final, for example, you'd almost expect us to be overwhelmed by the occasion. And we saw that in Rome. We saw that in Rome in a big way. And I certainly... No, I don't want to go completely on a different tangent here, but I don't even want to hear the conversations about Europe anymore. And it just so happens that obviously the rest of the Premier League is also bloody stupid at the moment. So we're still in and around that ridiculous area, especially now we've got the official confirmation there's 5 Champions League teams now from the Premier League this year. So you're getting European football all the way down to what, 8th or 9th? Is it 8th, 9th?
Something? It's
8th. I don't want Europe. I don't want Europe. I don't want it. Imagine what we're looking at now and what we're seeing right now, and then add a bunch of games in Europe on top of this that you've played, and you might still even be playing if you go on a run. We'd fall apart in such a big way. We need more players to come in. in the summer. I know it sounds silly because we just spent so much, but we need a level of rejuvenation in this team in certain areas. Defensively, obviously the big one. So to answer your question, we need some more balance of the players that we're missing with the level of maturity. And, you know, we haven't even talked about James Milner. The guy's gone missing all season. He was brought in for this purpose, to provide confidence, to provide leadership, to provide experience. And he's just, you know, he's another one.
Yeah, it's the injuries, isn't it? I think if you have your Veltmans, your Kadioglu's, like you said, right, you have a little bit more resilience in that team that's able to react to negative situations. I agree with you completely. If we got to the FA Cup final, or if we got to Wembley, I would fully expect us to, like you said, be overwhelmed or just not perform to the capabilities that this team can perform at. So that is a mentality thing. But is it also just an experience thing too? You're talking about the second youngest team in the Premier League. You're talking naive is the word that we were using as well. It's just not being privy to those and having the experience of those occasions and being able to really just nail down, hunker down, and just get what we need, right? Bad football, good results, right? And just try and grind out those results and be able to dig deep and go and find those points from somewhere. Yesterday was the opposite of that. I think we just, it felt like we gave up a little bit and said, right, we're going to react to the situation as opposed to be proactive and go and chase the 3 points. It's not where you want to be. I think there's a multitude of different things that affect that situation. Josh, you alluded to just the entire concept of how the club is run versus the significant injuries that we have that allow very experienced players to just not be involved and not lead by example and not be on that pitch with these 18, 19, 20-year-olds. They all have a contributing factor to us not being resilient enough and being a little naive on the pitch. And it leads to conversations like this where we don't want to talk about Europe because you don't want those extra games. You don't want to go to the Conference League and end up in Kazakhstan on a Thursday night just for like your 19, 20-year-olds to take a trip back and play United or City on the Sunday. That seems like a little bit much. And for a Premier League team, that's not good. It's not a good place to be in.
Yeah, I mean, I think realistic. I'm sure there are a lot of people staying positive out there with the hunt for Europe, and some even seem to think it's almost guaranteed still. Personally, I think 12 points from our next 15. No, I think, 60 points. We need 60 points to qualify for Europe, or 48. So that would mean we need a minimum of 12 points from our last 6 games. That's 4 wins. It's silly to even consider the fact when we're just not. We don't look capable of that. And the teams we're playing are teams that are not just going to. Yeah, I mean, Brentford this weekend, right? Like away is already going to be a massive problem because they're a team that we struggle against generally. We've got the Potter Revenge Tour. We've got Newcastle. We've got Liverpool. We've got Spurs away. Last game of the season. Anyone who's expecting 4 wins from our last 6 is just absolutely nuts for me. So yeah, I think Europe is done. Like I don't think there's much conversation to be had about it. I think we now just have to focus on, once again, trying to fix this mentality and finishing well. And just before we wrap, like we talked a little bit about what the summer looks like and spending money in the summer. Do we have any money to spend in the summer? PSR wise, right? We are now well up against it in terms of spending over the next year or two with how much we outlaid last summer without one marquee sale. So I mean, I guess we probably, if we want to spend, we probably have to accept the fact that, because it's rolling, right, every 3 years. So that kind of puts the timer on that we need to be a lot more frugal over these next 2 years until it kind of runs out, unless we make the sales that we need to make. What would you be happier with? Would you be happier with Mitoma, Pedro, or Baleba going for £50+ million and us bringing in 2 or 3 players in positions of need? Cough, right back, cough. Or would you, and centre half, right? Like, I mean, they're the 2 obvious ones, but beyond anything else, like a centre half that actually looks like they can inherit Dunk's spot, and a right back because we don't have one. Or would you rather keep those players and focus on getting this team back from injury and going again next season with minimal changes, right? Just like offloading some deadwood, maybe bringing in 1 or 2 experienced guys, or maybe, 1 or 2, like the fella from Nuremberg that we're going to be getting in, that striker, bits and pieces like that, right? Like, would you be happy with a quiet summer and keep those star players, or accept that we have to get rid of one to stay PSR friendly, and using that money to bring that group of players in? What pick your poison, I guess, is the question. Which one would you rather have? Because there are benefits and drawbacks to both, and it's such a subjective question. So I'll throw the floor to you, Craig. What would you prefer?
Probably the second option. I don't want to see any sales in the summer. I think, like you said, if we're not bringing any players in, I would rather focus on who we have and being able to build that team up. You've got, like you said, Simas coming from Nuremberg. You've got Enciso back. You've got Buonanotte back. You're going to have players coming back into the fold. Then if you get everyone fit as well with your Kadioglu's, your Veltmans, and have those sort of players available to you, having a decent, I still think we should go for a right back, but there are certain players that we haven't seen for so long. They're going to feel like a new signing. I would prefer that we just focus on what we have, given the outlay that we had last summer, focus on getting everyone fresh and fit and integrated and have them together as a team for another year and just see where we go. I think there's enough talent in this team now after the spending in the summer to go for a European slot. It's just not this year with everything that's happened. It was a good year to do it because I think a lot of these teams are average, right? You can see that by the points tallies at the moment. But I would prefer that we keep this group together for one more year and see how it goes. And that includes the manager as well, because I know people are skeptic about that as well. You keep everyone together for this year, you get your injuries back, you get your loanees back, and you really focus on what we want to achieve. And I think there's the talent there to be able to do it. What about you, Adam?
I mean, who cares about PSR? You just do what Forest did. I mean, it doesn't matter. Take the hit and then just get Champions League football.
Work for Villa, work for Forest. So
yeah, who cares? Well, there's still too many loopholes with it. With what Bournemouth did with like loan write-offs and Chelsea bloody selling hotels and all of this crap. I'm sure there's some creative ways to get around it. I do think we'll probably lose one of the big players. I don't want that to happen, obviously, and I don't know who it will be. It would just be guesswork at this point. But that would obviously be fairly upsetting for it to occur. I mean, I just don't. I'm not even properly thinking about the summer at the moment. Like we're just in this horrible run of form after being in an incredible run of form, and then you get the international break and you come back to this. Suddenly, like I'm staring down the barrel of this, and it's like, well, where do we pick up points? Can we turn it around? What's going to cause this turnaround to happen? Because the feeling that you're going to get at the end of the season is going to be incredibly different if you rally here and finish 7th or 8th versus finishing 12th, which is completely conceivable with the form of some of the teams that are below us right now, Palace obviously being one of them. We then suddenly go back to our preseason predictions and we go, hey, we were right. We regressed to the mean. And that would be really, really disappointing after where we could have been at the end of this season. That's going to impact the question that you asked. Are you talking about getting the squad in to do a European campaign next year and building on top of what we have? Or have you come 12th, got less money to play around with, and it's just all right, how do we grind this next season out and qualify for Europe next time around? It's a very different conversation. It's also going to be very different based on the players that you can bring in and the players that you can keep. All right, will Carlos Baleba stick around for another season if he can play European football with Brighton and continue to build on what he has? Or does he finish 12th this year? We get a bid in from someone and he goes, yeah, I'd be crazy not to leave right now.
Yeah. I mean, these final 6 are a brutal run of fixtures too. They're not going to be easy. And yeah, I mean, I think it's entirely conceivable to finish in 12th, just as much as it is 9th if we turn it around. But we will be back next weekend. I think it is probably going to be a Monday recording due to Easter. Everybody's got a lot going on with Easter stuff. So I know the boys in the UK are off on the Monday, but maybe we can even do a late night one and like record late in the US as well. I don't know. We'll try and get as many of us on as possible. So we will be back post Brentford. I have no idea what the vibe is going to be after that one because it's just impossible to predict what this club is going to do week by week. So we will be back and we'll chat to you guys on Monday. Have a lovely long bank holiday weekend, everyone here in the UK.
Thanks all.
Cheers.